All right. Welcome, everyone, to Episode 2 of Roughing the Passer, your NFL Sunday night podcast. Joining me again is none other than David Lee, football expert, I'm going to call him, and Jordan Newman, football expert junior, and me somewhere in between, probably those two gentlemen. So tonight we're going to do kind of our, last week we did our division winners and why we picked them and others that might be in the mix. This week we're going to actually do our award winners, NFL MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Comeback Player of the Year. Similar to last week, we can pick, make our picks. We'll take different turns going in the order how we go first and maybe why we selected that player and who else we might have considered but didn't go with, kind of like last week. But before we get into the picks, I do want to go into one topic that's sort of not a lot of news in the NFL world, just your basic camp battles and that sort of thing. But in New Orleans, guys, there's depending on what you believe and what you read, they're saying that they're not enamored with either guy, and some want them to go outside and get someone else. You got, again, Phillip Rivers is going to hear his name on the show, talking about maybe coming back. Can he wind up in New Orleans? I don't know if he's the right guy, but everyone thought, well, they'll be fine with Drew Brees retiring. You got Taysom Hill, you got Jameis Winston, and according to reports, again, you can't believe almost everything you hear, but neither one has really been stellar, and it's leading to some concern. We'll start with David. Cause for concern. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely is. I think. You think about the Saints coming off of a Hall of Famer like Breeze, and life there was set in stone at quarterback for years and years and years. It was, almost like the Colts with Peyton Manning or the Patriots with Tom Brady. So, and then you've got Taysom Hill, who's an exciting player. He's kind of a slash player. Obviously had a great college career as kind of that slash runner passer, but has never been a full-time starter at quarterback. He's been that kind of wild card that you throw in there to, for a spark. You don't know what he's going to do. He may even go out and catch a pass on you, so he's that rare kind of slash guy. And then Jameis Winston is, been one of those young busts that is he's either on his way out of the league and is about to start that, bouncing around from team to team, or he finds a new home in New Orleans. They still have one of the best receivers in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. And then Kamara is one of the best all-around offensive weapons, in the NFL. So that should be comforting as a quarterback, coming into that. But it still starts with the quarterback, and they can't not be confident going in with what they have. Obviously, Winston had a big season just in terms of yards because he threw the ball all the time. When you throw the ball 40, 50 times a game, you're going to get some yards. So, yeah, it's definitely got to be a shock. But I wouldn't be surprised if something happened here in the next 3 weeks. with Rivers making a decision or something else. I don't know. But if I had to put my money on it, I would say the week one starter would probably be would probably be Jameis Winston.
Yeah, you mentioned. I'm going to let Jordan go, but you mentioned Taysom Hill. I don't. Jordan's probably too young to remember, but
Stewart.
Cordell Stewart. Taysom Hill reminds me of our guy back in the day, Cordell Stewart. Slash, they called him, and just kind of could line up anywhere, throw it, catch it. Kind of he was the Wildcat before the Wildcat, and so I don't know if Taysom Hill's ready to be sort of that, 4 down quarterback whole game guy. I think he's good in the way they use him. I think he kind of gets exposed a little bit when they ask him to do too much. So Jameis, like you said, the accuracy issues. Brad commented in the chat room. I agree. He throws a lot of picks. Even in his good years, he's got a lot of touchdowns. He's got a lot of picks. And this is a team, I think, that believes that they can still compete for a Super Bowl. But like you said, David, it's going to start at the quarterback position. They're really only going to go as far as probably that position takes them. Jordan, what say you?
Yeah, I think there is. I didn't think there would initially be coming into the offseason. I thought it was going to be kind of cut and dry. It should kind of be Winston's job to really walk into. But I think the fact they haven't really just named him the guy shows you he hasn't really shown them what they wanted to see. But I think, like you said, it is probably going to end up being Winston. I would be a little bit concerned they haven't been able to just outright name him the guy. I think because, like you said, Taysom Hill's an exciting player, but that's not really a guy you expect Jameis Winston to have trouble being a better quarterback then. And the fact that it's still somewhat up in the air, I think, is a little bit worrying. And then with Michael Thomas, I think he had that ankle surgery, and now there's a little bit between him and New Orleans because they wanted him to get it right after the season. He didn't, and now they're kind of both going at each other with, who's right and who's wrong. So I think you want to get the quarterback situation taken care of, but I also think they're not too sure. I think with Michael Thomas either, with kind of his lingering ankle problem.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Do they make we got the Rivers thing still, as we talked about. Do they wait for maybe a camp cut of a quarterback they still think's got something
I think
left?
you could see Bridgewater could end up there, or a guy like that. I think after if Drew Lock wins that job, or a case like that.
Yeah, or do they make a trade and just get proactive and say, hey, we're not going to wait. Let's go to one of these teams that have these 2 or 3 quarterbacks that are sort of viable, see which one is available, and maybe, trade a draft pick and get, like you said, maybe they get a Bridgewater or a Foles or somebody that's not really pegged to start where they're at, but, or, even a Trubisky in Buffalo.
Andy Dalton, I think, could eventually be available.
Yeah, so I mean that's what I think. They're either going to go, to me, like David. I agree with David. I think they're either going to go with Winston and roll the dice there, or if they don't, if they deem like this is too risky, let's maybe play it conservative. I think they pull the trigger on a draft, a 5th or 6th round draft pick kind of deal, and get one of those type of quarterbacks that wasn't going to start where they are, and the team's willing, to have 3 guys willing to trade one of those and get that draft pick, and then even pick up a 3rd guy off camp cuts or something themselves. So especially if it's a higher valued court, someone making their contracts kind of decent price where they can kind of shed the contract. So I think it's one of the two. I think Sean Payton knows kind of Taysom Hill is better in the way he's used them up until this point. And so I guess it really comes down to how comfortable they are with Winston as the fully fledged starter, because I don't think you go in naming Hill the starter and have Winston on the bench. I don't see that. Stranger things have happened. What do I know? But I think they go more either Winston's the guy or they go get somebody via trade or cut or out of retirement in Rivers' case. And that the problem with Rivers is, the longer he waits, they're going to want someone to get a few weeks, either that's been playing on another team and in shape, or in here soon, so he can learn the playbook and get in kind of game shape. So I don't see Rivers panning out there. I think it's going to be Winston, or they pull a deal off with someone else as a surplus at quarterback.
Well, they got the rookie from Notre Dame too, but he's not. I mean, there are no plans, I think, for him to be a week 1 starter. I mean, does he get some playing time down the road? I don't know, but that's not somebody that you kick off week 1 with under center.
And it'll be interesting to see with whoever they go with, whether that person struggles, how long do they let that guy go, or do they make the switch or go outside and bring a guy in?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny talking about new quarterback issues in New Orleans with how long Breeze has been there. That's never been an issue. Brad in the chat room says, "Hey, Jimmy G." Right, that's interesting too. But the only thing with that, it's sort of same division there or same conference, so not impossible. You can see that, and Trey Lance looks good early, but again, it's preseason, so a lot of people look good against different, not the first strings, but it is what it is. Let's get into our picks. And so we'll save the MVP for last because I think that one will be interesting. Let's go NFL. Let's go offensive player of the year. Wrong slide there. There we go. All right. So we'll let Jordan. I'm going to let the youngest guy here go first on this one. Your pick for NFL offensive player of the year and why?
I'm going to probably go Christian McCaffrey. I think coming off the year not playing, obviously, last year, and the offense they have is he's going to be the main guy, but he doesn't have to be really all the time now. They've got the receivers, and I think with Darnold being his first year there, I think they're really going to try and get him involved just in the pass game alone, just to kind of have Darnold somewhat feel comfortable. I just think there's going to be a lot of reps to McCaffrey and a lot more kind of out of the backfield now, because I think you're going to see them stretch the field a bit more with Darnold than they did with Bridgewater. I just think even if Darnold doesn't succeed, I think they're still going to move the ball a little bit more aggressively, and I think that's just going to work in McCaffrey's favor. And I think they've got so many receivers at this point that it's tough to leave them one-on-one, and if you don't leave them, you really got McCaffrey basically matched up with a linebacker or safety most of the time. I just like the way that offense is spread out, and I do like Joe Brady a lot with Darnold there. I just think it's going to be a different style than what we saw last year, and I think it'll just be interesting that you'll still have the running McCaffrey, but you'll have more of a productive in the receiving game where it doesn't seem as forced. I think it'll be more of a natural with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson.
I love McCaffrey. I like all the reasons you gave. I agree with. I don't think he's going to be the offensive player of the year. He could be. He's not my pick. I'll go second here, and then we'll change the order up. I think everything you said is right, though, Jordan. I think they're gonna lean on McCaffrey to ease Darnold in, short passing game at first, which is what he's good at anyway. So it's not doing anything he's not accustomed to. What scares me, again, is injuries. It's why I probably use on my short list, but when I ultimately made my pick, I didn't pick him. I have two guys at the top of my list. I'll mention both, and I'll pick one. I love Matt Stafford this year with the Rams. And another guy I love that I think he's a guy I love coming out of college, and he's just steadily worked up better years after better years. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. And he's got the other guy that was taking some of the balls away from him is now in Tennessee. And I love Calvin Ridley in Atlanta. I know Kyle Pitts is there, but he's young. I think that talk about easing someone in. I think they're going to let him learn behind, it's funny saying this, the veteran Ridley now. And I think this is Ridley's year to show the NFL that he's here, he's real, and he's arguably one of the best wide receivers in the game. I think Matt Ryan, on the back nine of his career too, wants to show too that he's still got something left in the tank. They have a new coach, Arthur Smith coming over from Tennessee. I think this is going to be a huge year, whether he wins this award or not. I think this is going to be a huge year for Calvin Ridley to make his presence known, that he should be considered one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, not under Julio Jones. And I thought he was the best receiver on his team with Julio. I think now he just gets to come out of that shadow and really show it. So I'm going Ridley over Stafford, but quarterbacks sometimes tend to win this award, so it could be. But I wanted to kind of do something different and a little bit of a homer pick in the sense that I love the player, so I picked him for this award. David, we'll let you bat clean up here and then bat first on the next pick.
All right. Yeah, I really thought about McCaffrey, just given his, insane amount of total production, before he got hurt. I believe he led the league in total touchdowns back in 2019. But the thing that stands out to me about Offensive Player of the Year is always that it seems to go to just a guy that is just insanely productive, but also on a very good team. It almost never goes to the guy that's insanely productive, but on a not very good team, or on a team that's on the bubble of the playoffs. So, when you look at sort of those kind of historical requirements on the resume, it's almost easy to quickly write off some really, really good players. I would love it to go to a receiver again. It almost just never does, It's pretty much a quarterback and a running back award. More running backs for this award than MVP, right?
Yeah.
So for this one, I went with Josh Allen. I think that he showed last year that he's a legit elite quarterback. I pulled up his stats here from last year. 69.2% passes completed, which is awesome. Over 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. And he'll run it in the end zone on you, 6, 8, 9 times a game. So he's got the production. He's got a great team. He's got his contract extension now. He has one of the best receivers in the league. He's got an underrated backfield, running backs around him. So he's got all the support. And this is a regular season award, right? We can talk about the Bills maybe not getting over the Chiefs Mahomes hump in the AFC with the Titans rising and the Ravens still there. But this is a regular season production award on a good team. So I like Josh Allen for that award this year. I just think he's just primed to be right where, someone would be just to completely, break out, and he puts together big numbers. So that's my guy. But I like McCaffrey, and I think it would be really cool for a receiver to win it again. Thomas won it like 3 years ago or something, but before that, it's never receivers.
I like the Allen pick. I don't want to say I forgot about him. He was on my top 5. I didn't go there. I just think he had. I believe in him. I think you're right. I think he is in that elite tier now in the NFL quarterback level. I don't know if you can repeat that season. Like, he can still be elite and have a little bit less of a year. That's why I didn't pick him. I didn't not pick him because I think he's not real or he's going to have a down year. That's a tough act to follow, and he didn't really get it last year. So I think he's got to almost put up better numbers to get it. Not saying he can't. That's such a great year. Here's a great comment from the chat room from a Facebook user. It says, my sleeper pick is Dalvin Cook from the Vikings if he can stay on the field for 17 games. Yeah, that's the bugaboo, right? I mean, he's probably arguably the best running back in the NFL when healthy. That's that 2 words, right? When healthy, or as the saying goes, the best ability is availability. And he is a great. I don't think he gets enough credit, whether he wins this award or doesn't. I think he's underrated. He just needs to stay on the field. He's a game changer. Brad in the chat also says Russell Wilson. I don't know. I think there's some issues in Seattle based on what happened last year. I think he's very good. He was, first half, he was the MVP winner. If the season was 8 games, he would have won the MVP award. The season was 16 games last year, and he didn't win it in 16 games. So he didn't even make my top 5. But again, he's a great player. There's so many great players in the NFL. Our lists are going to be probably a little bit different than each other. Let's go to the opposite side of the ball and go to the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to let David go first here since he went last on the last pick. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm going first here because that way you won't think that I'm following you, because I have a feeling that we're going to pick the same guy here.
All right. The way you said that, we probably are now, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'll first start off by saying that I don't know how you can bet against Aaron Darnold. It's almost like kind of cliche now. He almost has to do something to not win Defensive Player of the Year. Like, he needs to give you a reason to not pick him. That's how dominant he is at defensive tackle. He gets the same amount of sacks as an edge rushing end or outside linebacker from the defensive tackle position. Consistently fighting double team. He's just an absolute beast. But I'm going to go, and I know he's in some kind of contract dispute right now, but I'm going to go with your guy, TJ Watt. Just looking at what he accomplished last year, and I looked this up, he was number 2 in the voting last year. He led the league in sacks. He had more sacks than Darnold. He had the number of total tackles right up there with the top of the list. So, there's really not much else he could have done from that position. I don't know. Maybe he gets 20. Maybe he needs 20 sacks to win the award. But again, that kind of goes back to my point, is that, the Rams weren't as good last year. Obviously, they're not that long removed from the Super Bowl, but their overall defense is just amazing. So I think Darnold gets a little bit of a boost just because of the reputation of the defense and what those guys were able to put together within a couple years. If Watt can just have just an absolute standout season like that, and maybe if the Steelers can catch a little bit of fire from what they had early in the season and not have the record that they did at the end of the season, maybe that'll help him a little bit. But the production's there. He's awesome. So TJ Watt.
I like it. I'll go last here because you saw me raise my fist in happiness, so you probably could guess where I'm probably going. Jordan, is this going to be a consensus?
Yeah. I think TJ probably should have won it last year, and I think he was second even the year before. I think he's right there, and I think, like you said, I think it's just Donald's got such that pedigree. I think that this is probably being the third year. I think with TJ Watt being 2, I think it'll finally break through and kind of dethrone, if anything, Aaron Donald down to 2. They're both so productive, and I think Watt makes such a big difference. I think even in the pass game, just through knockdowns and whatnot, and I think he opened up a lot for Bud Dupree. I think Bud Dupree's numbers were good, but if you really look at what Bud Dupree did prior to Watt really jumping on and becoming as dominant as he wasn't nearly the sack guy he was till TJ came on. So I think there's even, which Donald does too. I think both of them take so much pressure away from the other guys on the line that they just make such a big difference for the front seven alone. But I think TJ finally does it. I think Pittsburgh's pretty set on defense really everywhere, so he should be able to kind of run free at times. I don't think they're going to be able to focus on him too much just because you have Cam Hayward and you have Tuitt. But I think it's finally the year he kind of jumps Donald finally.
Yeah, well, as I gave up by prematurely celebrating when I heard David make his pick, it is TJ Watt. But I will say this. I'm not picking him just, he has finished second the last 2 years. Quite frankly, like we've all kind of agreed, he probably should have won it last year. That doesn't mean you get the next because people feel bad for you. You got to go out there and earn it. I think what will get it done for this, I see another good year barring injury. Devin Bush is coming back to take some pressure away and attention away. They just traded for Joe Schobert at Jacksonville, who's a very good linebacker that's going to have some draw some attention away. I think all these guys coming back, the addition of Schobert there is going to free him up to make even more plays. I mean, obviously he's going to be game planned against, but I just think he's going to have a little bit more room to run and make plays. I think the contract thing that you brought up, David, is a real thing. I think he wants to get paid. His brother got paid in Arizona and on the last legs of his career. I think he wants to get paid while he's young. And I think he's got something to prove. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he wants to show Pittsburgh. A little bit of the Schobert move, I think, too, guys, is kind of a little bit of an insurance plan in case, not really, but a little bit. And I think that might even motivate him to say, no, I'm still the guy here. And I see a big year, again, barring injury. And I'm going to say he wins it this year. I had three guys on my list. Aaron Donald has to be on your list. He's just such a force, a freak of nature. They don't even let him hardly practice with the Rams because he disrupts their own offense. And so they might even want to just name it the Aaron Donald Award and not give it to him. That would be the prestige. They just name it after him and then give it to somebody else. And another name that's on my list, this is actually true, and someone in the chat room put this. My pick is Hugh Gamble, but he had a solid rookie year. I'm going with Chase Young from the Washington football team. That was my third name. I had Watt, Donald, and Young, and I love Chase Young. If it ain't this year, he's going to win at least one of these, if not multiple of these, before his career is said and done. I think he's arguably, one of the best defensive players right now in his second year, as crazy as that sounds. So, yeah, I love that pick too. He was on my short list. I just not ready to give it to someone that young yet, but he has the numbers. Like, you can't argue with the numbers. I think what a lot of times happens when everyone has similar numbers, they go kind of by seniority. The senior gets the award, and I think that's how this award sort of works. So let's go to our next award. Let's go with the Rookie of the Year. Let's go offensive. I'm going to let Jordan I think Jordan hasn't went first yet, so we'll let Jordan make the first pick here.
Yeah, so this one was tough. I was between two guys, and I was really between Fields and Najee Harris. I think Fields is going to do really good, and I have the Bears doing well. And for the Bears to do well, I think Fields has to be a Rookie of the Year type player. But I think the thing that's going to help Najee is, I think, just touches. I think we saw Pittsburgh pound the ball with Connor last year with almost no production. And I think having the ability with a guy like Najee, who is going to probably have more production, I just think you're going to see quite a bit of him. I think in the pass game as well, because especially with Matt Canada's offense, they've talked about splitting out a lot more in just spreading the field much more. I just think Pittsburgh tried to revolve the offense last year around a run game, and it wasn't there. And I think this year having kind of a guy that's as dynamic as Najee Harris with that level of touches, I think is going to work. He reminds me a lot of Bell coming out of Michigan State, being Bell was bigger and was kind of shifty like that, and they pounded Bell really for his first 4 to 5 years there. And I could really see him doing the same thing this year. But if it's not him, I think it's probably going to be Fields. But I think just the amount of touches Najee Harris is going to have, it's going to be almost difficult for him not to rack up the amount of yards and touchdowns he needs.
All right, I'll go second, and then again we'll let David go first on the next pick. I hope you're right. It wasn't my pick. I did not take Najee. I would love to. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong, and you're right, Jordan. I kind of went with the chalk pick, if you will, for some, and that's Trevor Lawrence. And the reason being, I just think he's going to play all 17 games, barring him getting hurt. I think Urban Meyer's going to that's the number one pick. I know he's saying all the coach speak in press conferences that it's still up for grabs, but I think you pick this guy for him to be the future of the franchise. I don't think Urban Meyer is going to be there double-digit years, and I think Urban Meyer's this is his guy, and I think he's gonna go with him. And I just think for playing 17 games, he's just going to tabulate enough stats to win the award. He's the number one pick, and I think it's almost his to lose. I mean, if he struggles or he gets benched or he gets hurt, then I think the field opens up. But I'm going. I like the Fields pick in Chicago. I don't know. You know, if they're going to throw him in there right away. Maybe they do. He's looking very.
Yeah, that's what scares me is just how long they kind of hold Andy Dalton on as the starter. I think Fields takes over. It's just whether he has enough time to really get enough.
Yeah, that's why I'm going with Lawrence. I think Lawrence plays 17 games. Maybe Fields plays 14 or 13 of the 17. I think they're going to go with the guy who plays more games and is productive. And I don't see Lawrence being bad, so I think he's going to put up numbers, even if it's not a superb year. That he does have weapons there. I don't. Urban Meyer knows what he's doing. I know he's never done it in the NFL, but I think he's good enough to get some wins there. I think they're going to be the most improved team in comparison to the previous year with one win. And I think a lot of people are going to say, yeah, it's because of Trevor Lawrence now. That's why they won 7, 8, 9 games. And so I think he's my pick for offensive rookie of the year. Fields was on my list, and Harris was on my list too, but I'm kind of going with what many people would probably say is sort of the chalk pick here. David Lee, what say you?
Yeah, I really like Harris in Pittsburgh. I think you guys picked just an amazing dual threat running back, tough guy, tough runner. This award's always really fun because it's always fun to see like which rookies actually step up and produce, which ones kind of tank, which ones just kind of disappear. I think we're going to have at some point 4 starting quarterbacks that are rookies. We know Lawrence is going to start from week 1. Fields, I think, will be in there sometime in September. Wilson with the Jets, and then Lance with the 49ers. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Obviously, Herbert ran away with it last year. I'm going to go with a different guy, though, just because what I saw from him in college, just the versatility and the explosiveness this guy has is just ridiculous. But I'm going to go Travis Etienne, Jaguars running back in the backfield with Trevor Lawrence, with a college coach, a college-minded coach who coached Ezekiel Elliott at Ohio State. He had a guy like Percy Harvin at Florida. that type of all-around threat like ETN is. I pulled up his stats from college just because his total production did kind of drop off a bit as a senior. He did go back for his senior year.
Before you say the stats, don't forget one of those games was against Syracuse. Like I could run for like 150 yards.
Well, we play good against them. It's the only game we play well all season. We play good against Clemson and shut it down.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to throw that in there.
Right. No, that's a great point though. But the guy had over 6,000 total yards from scrimmage in his 4 years, 78 touchdowns. He had 24 rushing touchdowns as a sophomore, 19 rushing touchdowns as a junior. As his college career kind of went on, he became more and more of a threat in the passing game. And this was a team with phenomenal receivers as well. Big, Ross, who's there. An offense still centered around Trevor Lawrence, but ETN was just an absolute monster for Clemson, and I think the Jaguars are legitimately going to get significantly better this year. They've got some good receivers, for Lawrence, but yeah, I like ETN. I think Justin Jefferson was second last year behind Herbert, but I think Jonathan Taylor should have been number 2. I thought he had a phenomenal rookie year for the Colts from Wisconsin. So I like these rookie running backs who get in there and just from kind of week 1 are explosive, and ETN's got he's got all the tricks in his bag.
That's your guy, man. You really like. I mean, I like him too. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like I'm poo-pooing him, but you really. I mean, the 2 episodes. Anyone listening, that's your guy. You almost think he was a Longhorn, but he was at Clemson.
Although my guy Sam Ehlinger did lead the Colts on a game-winning drive at the end of preseason week 1, however that much is worth for you.
Yeah, I like Etienne. I think he's a great player. I just why I wouldn't go that route is I just think they're still going to lean on James Robinson. I think you're going to see Etienne more, like you said. I think they're going to use him almost more in passing sets. I think
that's what I think is going to work out for him. Is I think he's going to get a lot of like touchdowns you don't think of, or where they just kind of gadget play and get him out in space. And I think with Lawrence there too, it's a comfortability thing. If he needs a check down, he's got the guy that's been there for the last 5 years now.
Yeah, I just think they're going to lean on Robinson for this year. I don't know his contract situation. I think they're going to ease Etienne in. I think he's going to be more of a pass threat. Some touches, obviously, out of the backfield for sure. He's a running back that can catch the ball. And I think next year, it obviously won't be his rookie year, but I think next year is when he kind of takes over that dual-purpose, full-time, 3 down, 4 down running back guy. I think this year they're going to just want him to learn the ropes from someone like James Robinson, and then Robinson will sort of be exited out and wind up somewhere else. And, Urban Meyer will turn the keys over to Etienne full-time and be the only driver in the backfield. So I'm not saying he's not worthy. I just don't know if he's going to get enough stats. I think he's capable. I just don't think with how they're going to use him, he won't get enough stats to win the award. So
yeah.
That's why I went with Lawrence. I think that I think you said the same thing too, David. This team's going to be way better than they were last year. Even in games they don't win, I think they're going to be very competitive. I mean, last year they were just getting run out of the gym from start to finish. I think this year they're going to be in games and they're going to win games. And I think they're even going to win a few games where they're not going to be favored to win the game and they're going to pull the game out. So I think that's why I went with Lawrence. I just think at the end he'll be good. I just don't think he'll have the numbers to get the award. So we'll go to the Other side, Rookie of the Year defensive. And we'll let David go first here.
Well, mainly because there's not a clear-cut Ohio State defensive end to pick again for the third year in a row. You got to kind of go with somebody else, I guess. With this award, I really like to go with just like tackling machines that just rack up tackle after tackle and kind of end up being the quarterback of the defense. So I'm going to go Micah Parsons with the Cowboys. He's going to start from week one. He's already calling plays in the defensive huddle. He's got, the Cowboys had the worst defense in their franchise history last year, numbers-wise. But I think that was kind of an anomaly just from having guys completely out of position, not knowing what they're doing, not knowing their, assignments, too much, too many complications, going through their heads. I think that was a huge part of it. So word is that this defense is going to be just a lot more, simplified. But yeah, I think, and I also think that Parsons not playing for a year, sitting out at Penn State last year, he's gonna want to get in there and stick his head in there wherever he can. So and he's awesome. He's already like been clear far and away one of the highlights of Cowboys camp. So there's some other decent ones too. Patrick Surtain, we already saw him get a pick in their first game with the Broncos. A guy like that who can stand out and make a lot of big impact plays like that. Those are also the type of guys that I would look for. But yeah, I just think Micah Parsons is going to rack up just a ton of significant stops, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up with top 5 in total tackles for the entire league.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Jordan. I'll bet last here.
Yeah, I was between J.C. Horn and then Micah Parsons, and I ended up just going with Parsons because I think his biggest downfall might be in the coverage game, but you have Jalen Smith and Vander Esch, so he's not going to be asked to do that. I think they're just going to really put him in the position to make plays and tell him, find the ball, and I think he really fits in perfectly with what they have there at linebacker because you allow the other guys to sit more in coverage and be more coverage linebackers because he can span the field pretty much anywhere. I just think he's going to fit in great. I think there's going to be plenty of tackles available. I just think he's a great fit, and there wasn't, like you said, a standout guy, but I think if the closest to a guy that is a standout is probably him. He's such a freak physically that I just see him kind of running away with it. I liked J.C. Horn. It's just really tough, I think, for corners to you have to really jump out and make a difference as a corner, and it's just really tough to do compared to a guy that's going to be in the middle of pretty much every offensive play and getting eaten up tackles.
All right, I will tell you, it's not going to be consensus here. Now, Parsons was one of 2 guys on my final list, and I went with a dark horse. Same division. The name's not going to knock you out. One of the reasons I didn't pick Parsons, I like him, but the coverage issues. And again, I know what you said, Jordan. They're not going to need coverage from him. But I think that's sort of a little bit of a hole in his game right now. Things can change. People can get better. He very well win this award. I went sort of with a dark horse for really one of the reasons that David said is he's going to rack up some tackles. He's on a team that has probably the best front 4 in football. That's Washington. And he has all the measurables. He's a beast in his own right. That's probably going to be overshadowed in his division by Parsons, but Jamin Davis for Washington. I think the front 4 are going to be so keyed on, double teamed. I think him from the linebacker is going to come up and clean up a lot of stuff. I see some sacks there, some maybe forced fumbles, turnovers, and a lot of tackles. And so I think those are the two guys. They're in the same division with Davis and Parsons, and those were the two guys on my list. I think there's a lot of cornerbacks this year. We mentioned some during this discussion. J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, who really was predicted to be a Cowboy, wound up in Denver. I think the cornerbacks are going to have good seasons, but I think, linebackers a sexier defensive rookie of the year type of position to give it to. So for a corner to win it, they have to really have almost double-digit picks, and it would have to be quiet from the young linebackers. So I think it's either Parsons or Davis. I went with Davis just kind of just to be different, and just thinking up front they're going to just be so double teamed and game planned against. I think he's going to have a lot of free reign to just kind of come in and smack folks and put some stats up. So that's why I went with John Davis. All right, coming down the home stretch here, we have two more. We'll save the NFL MVP for last. We'll go with NFL comeback player of the year. We'll let Jordan go first this time.
This one was tough. I kind of had one guy I thought it was, and then when I made my offensive player of the year pick, then it brought McCaffrey up. But I think Dak's probably going to win it. I think it's just before he went out, he was really on pace to easily lead in passing yards. And I think the years before, he's really just continued to get better and lead that offense. I mean, you've got Amari Cooper, you have CeeDee Lamb, and you have Zeke. So there's talent there. He's coming back. I think he's going to look good. I think the Cowboys are going to perform a lot better this year. I think just with having Dak there, and then just not having all those injuries right at the beginning, it just put a big damper on the season. I think they're probably going to come out a little bit harder. And that division really doesn't scare me. It does, because anyone can win it, but I think he should be able to put up numbers and be pretty productive. And I think just him being the clear leader of that offense, it's easier to give it to him when he's usually the clear factor of that offense moving.
All right, I'm gonna bet. I'm gonna go last on this one. I'm gonna let David go here, and then David, I'll let him start out when we go to the MVP. But I don't know if he's gonna agree and go the same route, or if he's going different. So we'll let him make his pick right here.
So my top two picks, I think, are flip-flopped from Jordan's top two picks. I had Dak as a super close second. Now, given his story and the way he got hurt and how kind of horrific it was to watch, I think that's going to play a huge part into it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wins it at all. But one of the reasons why I didn't pick Christian McCaffrey for Offensive Player of the Year is because I've got him at Comeback Player of the Year. Just because of like I said before, his production is just absolutely undeniable. He was just under 2,400 yards in 2019. Those are like Marshall Faulk type numbers. Like you remember when Marshall Faulk had like 3 or 4 years of 2,200, 2,400 total yards, just absolutely the best offensive weapon in football. That's kind of how I see McCaffrey. Now, if the Cowboys win the division and go to the playoffs and all that stuff, yeah, I think you've got to give that to Dak, because he's gonna get his numbers. Like you can't not get those numbers. Especially with Lamb and Cooper and all those weapons he has with him. But I would say if McCaffrey comes back and just hits the ground running as he did in 2019, man, it's going to be hard not to pick him for Comeback Player of the Year.
All right, I did not pick either of your picks. As a matter of fact, there's a chat in the chat room that got my pick for me. I had the two guys I had on my list are both running backs. You mentioned one of them in McCaffrey. Who I love, and I also love this guy, and And I think I think he's been hurt more than 1 year. He's been hurt each of the last 2 years. I think he's sort of been forgotten about. And I think this year, if he stays healthy, he's going to make people remember why he was such a high pick. I think the Giants were my pick to win this division. This gentleman has to play the full year for that to happen. So it's Saquon Barkley for me. I think he's arguably one of the best players in football. Again, when healthy, there's the two words. He's due to have a full season. They've finally fixed that lineup. Not saying they're done yet or the best line, but it's going to be the best line he's had in his career in New York. And New York knows, like, they're going to have to put up or shut up, or Saquon's going to wind up playing on a different team. And so I think they're going to use him, and I think he's going to have a huge year. I think the Giants are going to be contending for the division. And so if Saquon can play 17 games, he's my pick. And this was the comment. And it came up before it was my turn to say it. I'm like, this person's reading my mind. So he's saying that some of the issues still potentially with Dak might hinder him. And Texas Card Dude in the chat room, Brad is throwing Jared Goff's name in the ring. I don't see that one. They typically give this award to somebody who was hurt either most of the year or a good percentage of the year, or someone who really maybe got benched or their production was way down and they kind of came back. And, Goff was good. It wasn't like he was bad. He wasn't great either. He'd have to have some sort of incredible year in Detroit to get it. I don't see it, so it wasn't on my list. But who knows, right? So I'm going with Saquon. A little biased there because I like the player a lot. He's on my fantasy team. I'm gonna full disclosure, but even if he wasn't, I would have still picked him. And so that's I'm going with Saquon. A lot of picks in that division and a lot of these awards. Yeah. I've noticed too. It's a heavy NFC East show. Last award here, the big one, as they say, the NFL MVP. And David Lee, we're going to give you the honors to lead the finale out right here.
All right. So this is the quarterback award. As it almost seems like if a quarterback wins this award, then the offensive player of the year might be a running back. I pulled up the list, and you've got to go back to 2012 to get a non-quarterback, and that was Adrian Peterson in his phenomenal year where he threatened the record. And then before that, you got to go back to 2006 for a non-quarterback, and that was LaDainian Tomlinson. So of all those years, just going back to 2006, you had two non-quarterbacks. And if your name was Manning, Brady, or Rodgers, you had a really good shot at winning the award too. So having said that, they're not afraid to give it to a quarterback, and they're not afraid to give it to a quarterback more than once, more than twice. So I'm going to go a repeat with Mahomes. Kind of a safe pick, but he's the face of the league right now, not named Brady. He's kind of, he may win 5 more Super Bowls. I don't know. But I really think that the AP likes to pick this award as somebody who was kind of like the face of the league, who would very likely make the cover of Madden, that type of player. We've seen Mahomes, we've seen Lamar Jackson, and I think Mahomes and Brady are going to be on the next cover. So it's that type of front-facing branded player too. So I kind of look at it that way too. I don't expect Mahomes to drop off in his production. If their offensive line situation can be solidified, for a full 17 games, I definitely think he's in position, as good of a position as anybody to get his second MVP award.
All right, I'm gonna let Jordan go second here.
Yeah, it's a quarterback award. I went with the same thing. I think Mahomes is just Mahomes. He really doesn't play bad games. He just doesn't do anything you really don't want a quarterback to do, and then he makes some throws that are just mind-boggling. I think with the numbers he puts up, and then the style he does it with, some kind of the unbelievable throws he makes, it's usually pretty easily to kind of put him up there. I think it could have been a number of quarterbacks. I think there's a shot Josh Allen. I think if he takes another step, could really push for it. I don't think there's anyone that's really right there with Mahomes. I think Herbert could, but I think the Chiefs' offense and with Andy Reid and the whole system they have, it's just so smooth. I think you know what you're going to get, and I think Mahomes, after not getting it last year, I think there might be kind of more of a push from him even to kind of pull and get it back.
All right. So it is a quarterback award. My pick is a quarterback. My pick is not named Mahomes. I will say that. I'm going to draw this out a little bit since it's the last pick and I'm being suspenseful. You'll probably be able to guess who it is by some of the clues I leave here. This is a guy who's always been a very good player, but he's been on a team not surrounded by very good players, and it's really held him back. I think it's cost him awards such as this. Definitely cost him postseason appearances that he hasn't been in. I think this is the year that it changes. I think a lot of people know how good he is. I think this is the year some of the people who don't know are going to realize he's got a bunch of weapons now. He's not playing in the team loves him so much and knows what they got. They're not playing him in the preseason at all to save him for the regular season. I think he wins his first MVP ever. And I'm going with Matthew Stafford with the Rams. I think this is going to be his, I hate to say it like this, his coming out party. He's not a new player. He's been in the league a while now. But I think with the weapons he has now, I think this is him going to be saying, I've been here all along, and now see what I can do when I have tools in the toolbox. And I think he's going to have a monster year. I think they're going to award it to him, I don't want to say like a lifetime achievement award, but I think they're going to recognize all the lean years he had with lean weapons. He's going to put up big numbers, and he's going to get his first MVP. Obviously, Mahomes is probably always going to be in this conversation. If Josh Allen has a similar or better year to last year, he's going to have in this conversation. And Aaron Rodgers still. Again, we're all quarterbacks because this was truthfully the only time a quarterback doesn't win this award is when it's really kind of a bad year in that for that position, which rarely happens. Is why they win it all the time. So I'm going off the grid a little bit, although I really think he's always been a great player. I think this is the year people kind of stand up and take notice, and Matt Stafford.
I think you're high on Stafford like I am on ETN.
Yeah. Yeah. And one last comment before we kind of call the show. As a Packers fan, I always thought Stafford was unappreciated by the national football conversation. That's from DR. Yeah. I just think he's never had the weapons he has now. Like, this is no excuses. And he's put up numbers in Detroit. It's not like he's been bad. He's been good. But
well, I think just having an actual offensive system and having the ability to run the ball. I think there was a stretch he had like 3 years where he didn't have a 100-yard rusher. Like, they didn't get over 100-yard rushing in a game. And, like, that's insane no matter who's playing quarterback. But to still produce when the defense knows if you're going to get any yards, it's coming through the air. And now, obviously, like you said, there's so much talent there. They're not going to be able to lock in on him and kind of full bore blitz like they kind of have in the past with him.
Yeah, and when he kind of became available, I read a report that there were 7 or 8 teams calling Detroit to obtain his services, and that's a high number, including some teams that actually have a starting quarterback and just wanted a better one. So I think that just goes to show you what kind of talent he is. Now he's got cars in the garage to drive, and I think he's poised for a super duper great year, and could. I'm kind of, if you listen to these 2 episodes we've done here, you're probably kind of seeing where I'm going with even some of my postseason picks, if you will. So I'm going with Stafford to win MVP. So we got 2 Mahomes and a Stafford as our selections. I got a feeling someone's going to be right. I think Mahomes is probably the safer pick, obviously, but you never know, and that's the fun. We get to watch and see how this all plays out. So we're gonna wrap it up. We're about at the hour mark, so we beat last week's hour and a half time. Please follow us on Twitter at The Roughing, TheRougHing. Facebook, look for Roughing the Passer podcast. Give us join the group there, and on all major podcast platforms, Roughing the Passer. We're live every Sunday night, or most Sunday nights, I'll say. Definitely once the season starts, it'll be every Sunday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And by following any of the social medias, you'll be notified when we go live. So for Jordan and David Lee, thanks, guys. And we're 1 week closer to the real games beginning. And and Matt Stafford's run for MVP.
You're going to be his MVP campaign manager.
I guess so. All right. Good night, everybody.